And it seems The Simpsons just can't wait for next season to deal with Donald Trump.
To be at Trump Tower, it's great to be in a wonderful city, New York, and it's an honor to have everybody here. This is beyond
The Simpsons.
I found Area 51!
No, ma'am, this is Area 51A.
Once just satire, now eerily accurate.
This is Sally. And these are Sally. And those are...
From California fires to Tesla breakthroughs,
Hey, look, Homer's got one of those robot cars.
Trump's presidency, and shocking demises.
The Simpsons have done it again. This time, they correctly predicted the ending to the most recent episode of Game of Thrones.
2025 proves their predictions are no joke.
They're nothing but hideous space reptiles.
Coincidence or something more? Let's uncover the terrifying truths behind these crazy events.
The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
The Palisades incident. The ongoing disaster in Los Angeles shows no signs of slowing down. The Palisades fire continues to spread uncontrollably, fueled by an unexpected spell of dry weather. Firefighters are working relentlessly to contain the flames, but images of the devastation are flooding social media, painting a grim picture of entire neighborhoods reduced to ashes. While some have made light of the situation with remarks like, "Eat the rich," the magnitude of this tragedy is undeniable. But could it all have been prevented? Interestingly, an old Simpsons episode featured a fire in Springfield that destroyed the neighborhood. With the show's uncanny reputation for predicting real-life events, this seems far too strange to dismiss as mere coincidence. LA fire. It's almost uncanny how even the most insignificant moments in The Simpsons seem to mirror real life. While the show has gained fame for its eerie ability to predict events, including the Los Angeles fires, not everyone is convinced. Yet, it's hard to ignore the subtle connections it makes to real-world tragedies. Take one particular scene, for example. Springfield's firefighters rush to extinguish a fire, but are briefly delayed by a group of ducklings crossing their path. In reality, no ducks hindered the efforts to fight the Palisades fire, but abandoned cars did create obstacles for firefighters. It's not just a coincidence, it's a reminder of how some details strangely align with reality. AI robots.
What does happy look like?
This is angry.
We've been hearing about robots taking over the world for decades, so a robot invasion isn't really that surprising. But The Simpsons took it a bit further, when in an episode it not only featured robots taking over jobs, but also included a short segment where all the robots looked unusually human-like.
This is Sally. And these are Sally. And those are...
Scientists have been trying to achieve this for a long time, but to this accuracy, after years of experimentation, which included Sophia, the first humanoid robot who debuted in 2016, we've now got Saudi Arabia shocking the world after unveiling its first human robot. And yep, if you saw it from afar, you wouldn't even know it was a robot. Now these robots have not only mastered basic human elements like speech, but can even rock an expression. Mars mission. From Tom and Jerry Blast, off to Mars to Curious George visiting the planet, trips to Mars have always been a fantasy, and since they're nothing new, you wouldn't expect to be impressed by an old Simpsons episode. But here's how the Simpsons voyage to Mars differs from regular animations. Firstly, it was a one-way trip, meaning whoever went there would never return.
Never come back? You'd have to be pretty sad. Aniston sad.
Secondly, the people sending out a mission to Mars were planning to build a separate human colonization there. For this, they picked out the best of the best to ensure mankind thrives. Exactly what NASA and Elon Musk are aiming to do. And since we're already conducting experiments and know that Mars is a possible spot for habitation, maybe in 2024, we'll even see the first step. Apple Car. This might be a ridiculous one, but it just goes to show how advanced The Simpsons is, and that the showrunners might actually hold secrets of the future. Lisa is supposed to join a camp, but Marge references the bus that's come to pick her up, Not only is it shaped like an apple, but Marge clearly references it as one of Apple's latest products.
It's just the Mayo Clinic pre-medical summer camp.
It was one of those new Apple cars. You would think they should have stuck with computer.
This was back in 2016, when Apple was rising to the surface. But an iPhone seller coming up with a car seems pretty far-fetched, until fast forward a few years, and we see Apple actively try to build an electric car. Although its production stopped just this year, many believe The Simpsons hinted at it eventually being picked up again. Zuckerberg's honor.
It's Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook.
Well, the truth is, I dropped out of Harvard.
In a surprising twist, Mark Zuckerberg himself appeared in a Simpsons episode, during which, while he did become the brunt of a few jokes, he also mentioned something about getting an honorary degree from Harvard.
Hell yeah, I'll get the best kind of degree. Honorary, baby!
Now, if you don't know Zuckerberg's educational adventure, he did get into Harvard as a teen in 2002, but dropped out during his sophomore years to pursue establishing Facebook, so it's not like he had no claim to a Harvard degree. But when the episode aired, there was no such suggestion. Until just a short few years later, Zuckerberg was called back to Harvard as a commencement speaker and was also awarded an honorary Harvard degree. I guess with this one, The Simpsons weren't the only ones predicting the future. Zuckerberg wanted in and probably wished super hard. Disney takeover.
Parent company Disney, spending more than $52 billion to buy a significant portion of 21st Century Fox.
One of the biggest things The Simpsons has successfully predicted is Disney acquiring 20th Century Fox. In the show, this happened during an entrance to 20th Century Fox, which also came with a fine print that read, "A division of Walt Disney Company." This was back in 1998, so a decade and more years later. The world kind of went into a frenzy when the same fate happened to Fox. That's right, in 2017, Disney and 21st Century Fox announced they were finally merging into one, with the mouse bagging the fox under its control. Why is this such a momentous prediction? Because 21st Century Fox had always been proud of its history, and merging with a company, in fact, giving over its rights and production completely, was something even the craziest imagination couldn't conquer. Baby translator.
I have soiled myself. How embarrassing.
Although parents can always get their children, don't you wish sometimes you could actively hear and understand your little bundle of joy? Babies usually learn to speak when they're 1 year old, so it takes a bit to get to know what they want. But imagine a crawling bundle of joy mumbling something and getting that exact, adorable gibberish translated into fully formed words. This actually did happen in a Simpsons episode, where Maggie was inherently subjected to a few tests and helped develop the world's first baby translating machine. In the episode, Marge and Homer were finally able to understand what Maggie wanted at all times.
Lavish attention on me.
Maggie, you talk!
But did you know it's something you could achieve too? Well, a company called Zoundream has done the impossible and come up with a baby translator. It seems like The Simpsons keep cracking reality. Racy's demise.
A helicopter carrying Iran's president and its foreign minister crashed in the northwest of the country in thick fog.
On May 19th, 2024, the world witnessed the end of an era as Iran's president, Ibrahim Raisi, sadly lost his life in a tragic event. His helicopter went down suddenly, leaving many in shock and disbelief. If only there was a way to foresee or prevent it. And here we are, back with The Simpsons. Anonymously shared online, an image from the show, supposedly from an unaired episode, depicts a similar accident, though no one has been able to verify it. But here's where it gets even stranger. In an older episode, Homer mentions a date and time suggesting a tragic event. The date, May 19th, 3:15 a.m., close to the timing of Raisy's helicopter incident. A coincidence or something more? Flu-pocalypse. Imagine if we had known The Simpsons could predict the coronavirus pandemic. We might have been ready. COVID-19 seemed to appear out of the blue, but there's an old episode from season 4, Marge in Chains, that hints otherwise. In this episode, Homer receives a box tainted by a sick worker's germs. Soon, Springfield is hit with a strange flu, evolving into a full-blown pandemic. The twist? At the episode's end, people are in the streets demanding a cure.
We need a cure! We need a cure!
Only for the doctor to say one isn't available.
Why, the only cure is bed rest. Anything I give you would only be a placebo.
Sounds a lot like the early days of the pandemic, doesn't it? Voting error. Back when Obama was running for president, Homer Simpson tried to vote for him, but somehow the voting machine errs and casts his vote for the opposite candidate. It wasn't until a while later when voting began for the presidency, and a faulty voting machine in Pennsylvania counted a vote for Obama as one for Romney instead. Thankfully, it was quickly thrown to the curb and rectified, but maybe the Simpsons were trying to tell us something about the future. Siegfried and Roy's Tiger Incident. A couple of years ago, popular magicians and performers Siegfried and Roy took to the stage with the promise of an exciting tiger performance. What followed instead was an unexpected tackle, a terrible fate, and an audience scurrying to get the authorities. Of course, working with an unrestrained tiger does have its predicaments. But it looks like The Simpsons warned us this would happen in a ye-old episode, where performers were tackled by beastly cats. MPV distraction. There's a persistent conspiracy theory that epidemics like COVID-19 are actually forms of biowarfare, intentionally released to sow chaos. Another theory suggests that hidden powers use these outbreaks to cover up their misdeeds. These discussions often remain in whispers due to their controversial nature. However, The Simpsons appears to tackle such ideas head-on. In one episode, they allude to a manufactured epidemic.
The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
Which feels eerily relevant today, with concerns growing over the HMPV virus, which surfaced around the same time as the New Jersey UFO sightings. One can't help but wonder, are these events connected, or is it just another conspiracy? Sunblock. Harvard has been working on an experiment since 2018. Due to rising global warming, scientists are trying to figure out if there's a way to literally block out the sun, or parts of it, in hopes of evading the heat. As they're still working on this one, funnily, if you tune into The Simpsons, Mr. Burns, in a fit of rage and craze, decides to literally block the sun. Back then, it seemed like a gag.
Take one last look at the sun, Springfield.
But it looks like Mr. Burns' idea had some sort of shape. World War III. What if I told you that World War III is closer than we think? Don't panic just yet. But if you're looking for someone to blame, maybe start with world leaders, or even The Simpsons creators. The show has a history of uncanny predictions, and in one episode, a British character makes a direct reference to World War III, something that, so far, hasn't happened. Conspiracy theorists have long speculated that a third world war could mark the downfall of the US. And seeing how things are unfolding, it doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. Let's just hope we're not the ones getting drafted.
Well, we saved your ass in World War III.
That's true.
Trump's rule. The former President Trump's reign has left the United States in a rather unique position, I'd say, especially now that he's in the spotlight. But imagine calling out someone's presidency when they're not even a politician running for the president. That's right, when Trump was just trying out his hand in politics and hadn't even affiliated him with his current party. An episode featuring a future scenario showed him as the president. In that episode, Lisa takes over the presidency after Trump and complains about a few things she inherited from the previous president. Yep, that sounds pretty similar to what we went through, doesn't it? Of course, now everyone's left wondering, who told The Simpsons that Trump would be in power? Snowstorm. While the LA fires continue to wreak havoc, there's another threat looming on the horizon. If The Simpsons really can predict the future, then many more disasters depicted in the show might eventually come true. Take the snowstorm episode, for instance. What begins as an ordinary day quickly escalates into chaos. forcing Springfield residents to take shelter wherever they can. The storm, given an unrepeatable name due to its deadly impact, devastates the town. While no snowstorm has hit yet, with warnings of extreme weather becoming more frequent, could this be the next apocalyptic event? Snowless Xmas. Another chilling prediction from The Simpsons is the idea of a snowless Christmas. Just imagine, for many, it's unthinkable to celebrate the holiday without the snow we've come to associate with it. Yet, the show hints at a future where global warming and climate change lead to a world devoid of snow, except for Springfield, which resorts to artificial methods. As we witness the worsening effects of climate change, it feels like we're inching closer to this grim reality. A snowless winter might soon move from nightmare to reality. Could this be the future we're heading toward? CERN, black hole. Many conspiracy theorists believe that CERN is secretly attempting to create the world's first black hole. While most experiments in this direction haven't succeeded, strange anomalies near CERN have sparked suspicion. Witnesses have reported bizarre visuals in the sky, almost like the opening of a portal. It's through experiments like these that some think CERN could inadvertently create a black hole. This scenario eerily resembles an episode of The Simpsons, where a similar experiment results in a black hole that devours everything in its path. Is fiction becoming reality? Vaccine or not? The COVID-19 pandemic revealed polarized views on vaccines. Some eagerly awaited them, while others vehemently opposed them. Rumors swirled about potential side effects, adding to the controversy. This debate, however, isn't new. In one episode of The Simpsons, Bart goes to great lengths to avoid getting vaccinated, mirroring the initial resistance seen during the pandemic. Eventually, when he gets the shot, unexpected side effects occur, eerily similar to claims made about COVID-19 vaccines. Now, with concerns surrounding the HMPV virus, the parallels seem even more striking.
COVID-19 vaccines have been linked to rare but potentially serious neurological complications.
Silver monolith. In mid-2024, Las Vegas became the center of an alien mystery. A massive silver monolith appeared out of nowhere, its reflective surface gleaming ominously. Its sudden presence raised countless questions, especially since its installation seemed impossible for any human force. While the mystery remains unsolved, it's fascinating to note that The Simpsons seem to predict something similar. An old episode shows an almost identical monolith, making you wonder, how could they possibly know? The show's uncanny predictions continue to baffle us. Toys R Us. When Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy in 2017 and closed its stores by 2021, it shocked countless families across the US. Parents and kids alike mourn the loss of the iconic franchise. But if you look back at The Simpsons, there's an episode where Moe removes the R from the Toys R Us sign, symbolizing its closure. The episode aired when the franchise was still thriving, making the depiction seem out of place, unless the creators had insight into what was to come. Once again, their foresight leaves us questioning how they do it. Area 51 secrets. Perhaps one of the biggest mysteries in the US is Area 51, the place rumored to host aliens and extraterrestrial aircrafts. And there was even a point in time when multiple residents stormed Area 51, only to find out there was nothing there. And the facility isn't the Area 51 they thought it was. Now, it was all hilarious back then. But as we go back to the Simpsons episodes, you'll find one where Lisa takes the wrong bus and winds up at a place called Area 51. But when she talks to the guard, he firmly claims it isn't the Area 51.
I found Area 51!
No, ma'am, this is Area 51A.
But Area 51A. Meaning Lisa was misled, but this incident makes you wonder, doesn't it? GME and Bitcoin. If you've traded in GME, you might want to be a little more hopeful. Sure, the trade hasn't gone as smoothly as we'd expected, but if we're really putting our trust into The Simpsons, we might as well go all in. In one Simpsons episode, it's predicted that GME stocks hit $1 trillion in profits. If that's true, and will be, it means we're coming closer and closer to the real deal. And that's not all. See that in the corner there? That's Bitcoin. Set at an infinity. Whoa, it seems like investing in this all might just be beneficial. Hey, remember, I'm only saying might. Alien takeover. Perhaps one of the most chilling experiences yet. A couple of months ago, the Congress confirmed the existence of aliens. How crazy is that? They even supported it with alien mummies, collected from a few unnamed sites, while others, like the Nazca mummies, have gained a lot of popularity. But how does The Simpsons play into this? Well, remember that silly theory going around that stated we're already living with aliens? That they're hiding in a human disguise? Well, The Simpsons added fuel to this in an old episode, where people in charge of the nation were revealed to be aliens. And considering how close we are to seeing aliens, who's to say them being one of our rulers isn't a possibility in 2024? Solar superstorm. Just a few weeks before the total solar eclipse, the world erupted into havoc. The reason? Many believe the incoming solar storm would transition us into an apocalyptic world, rendering us all helpless. This claim didn't arise out of nowhere. While The Simpsons loves showing a couple of apocalyptic episodes, it also predicted a full solar eclipse. Once again, nothing new, but it was alluded to have happened in 2024, which, as we know, really did happen. Thankfully, we've warded off the apocalypse. It didn't happen, and we're all safe. But are we really out in the clear? What if we're slowly headed to an apocalypse, but haven't really picked up on it yet? It's safe to say we should still remain cautious, even if we think we're out of danger's way. Zombie apocalypse. We've seen one Simpsons prediction come true in the most horrifying way: the pandemic. Naturally, we're all itching to find out what's in the store for us, but is that really the case? What if in the upcoming few years we're once again forced to fight a helpless battle? Say something imaginative like the zombie apocalypse. Yeah, we know it's been theorized for years, but maybe we're getting a bit too close for comfort to the possibility of it happening, as The Simpsons battled a zombie apocalypse that transferred through infected meat. We're seeing a rise in animal-to-human viral cases, especially through contact with poultry and meat, which means if we can't figure out a way to quickly curb the contact, we'll be looking at a zombie apocalypse soon. Titan submersible. On June 18th, 2023, the world was stunned when the Titan submersible disappeared during a deep-sea exploration.
Titan submersible disaster has revealed the final text messages sent by those on board as they headed towards the wreck of the Titanic.
The tragedy left many grieving, but some were quick to notice an unsettling connection to an old Simpsons episode. In the storyline, Homer joins an underwater mission with someone he believes is his father. Separated on the ocean floor, Homer loses consciousness due to a lack of oxygen. Luckily, he survives. Viewers couldn't help but draw comparisons to the Titan disaster. Could these uncanny parallels have served as a warning for the tragedy that unfolded? It's a chilling thought. Amazon burning. In a rather unique episode of The Simpsons, Homer is taken by a bunch of hooligans living in Brazil. As they go down the Amazon, they say it'll be a quick trip since most of the Amazon is burning down.
Behold, the Amazon! But quick, because we are burning it down.
Tragically, it wasn't just a joke on their end. It seems like the creators of The Simpsons were just trying to tell us how bad we'd be treating Mother Nature, because years later, in 2024, there are multiple reports of the Amazon being burned down. Activists are working on it, but it seems like that if we had just paid a bit more attention to cartoons, we might have been able to prevent this. Tesla's prediction. Speaking of Tesla, in another humorous episode of The Simpsons, we see Homer freak out at the thought of being spotted in public with Ned Flanders.
Duck! I can't let the boy see me with you!
What?
so he makes it look like he's driving a driverless car. And as we all very much know, decades later, we're now seeing more of these driverless cars take the streets. All thanks to Elon Musk's brain baby, Tesla. Perhaps The Simpsons was just trying to fantasize about technology, but this certainly seems like it got pretty close to predicting the future. I wonder what else has it predicted that's yet to come true. Bell pepper snacks. Simpsons predictions aren't always dark. They can be pretty amusing too. In one episode, Homer, while at a game, buys bell peppers to eat. I don't know about you, but eating raw bell peppers is just crazy. And then, a couple of years later, this fan was spotted. Either the fan took some serious inspiration from The Simpsons, or the show really has got tricks up its sleeve. Aliens in Miami. Just a few months ago, rumors of a bright alien creature suddenly appearing out of nowhere in a mall in Miami began circulating. There were even a few visuals to back up this claim, but what if I told you this was all prophesied to happen several years ago? And that too by an animation. During an episode of Season 8 of The Simpsons, Homer encounters a bright, glowing creature in the woods. Although Homer's alien encounter didn't exactly happen in a mall, the likeness of the alien to the one that allegedly appeared in the Miami Mall is too much to be passed off as a coincidence. Especially so since The Simpsons also predicted aliens running the place. Maybe that's what we'll be seeing in a couple of months. Portal travel. The Simpsons once envisioned portals as a futuristic mode of transportation. At the time, it seemed purely sci-fi, but recent advancements in technology make the concept feel less far-fetched. From Elon Musk's Hyperloop to unexplained phenomena resembling portals, the world is moving closer to this possibility. While we're still far from achieving this, The Simpsons' vision of effortless travel sparks curiosity. Could portals become a reality someday? With the pace of innovation, this once fictional idea might not be so unrealistic after all. It's yet another example of how The Simpsons stays ahead of the curve. A Starbucks world. Let's be honest, as much as we love a cup of coffee in the morning, seeing a Starbucks every 5 minutes is beginning to feel like a lot. Just when the chain was starting up, The Simpsons predicted it would be a big thing. And well, here we are. But here's where it gets even crazier. The Simpsons also predicted there would be a mega Starbucks store. And it looks like that crazy idea is beginning to take real shape. FIFA's corruption scandal. In 2015, FIFA officials were reprimanded and arrested on corruption charges over 2018 and 2022 World Cup bids. We all remember this. It was big news, especially with how unexpected it was. The investigation carried on, with many even being barred on conditional terms. But what if we told you this was all predicted by the very same yellow characters we laugh at? They did say such corruption would take place, but then it was a bit too early. Now it's more than just a coincidence. Humanoid fish. I know some of you might find this a bit wild, but just bear with me. In an old episode, we see Flanders showing off a special kind of fish, and long story short, by the end of the episode, this fish grows humanoid legs, leaps out of the water, and starts breathing. An annoyed Flanders quickly tosses it back into the tank. Now, you could argue the fish didn't just evolve, but maybe transformed into something more alien-like. Sounds like a stretch, right? But here's the kicker. Something similar actually happened recently. And while it looks like a regular fish, even scientists can't quite pin down what it really is. What do you think? Neuralink. In 1998, a short commercial featured Homer undergoing brain surgery to implant an Intel Pentium 2 chip. It was meant to enhance Homer's mental prowess, which we know wasn't all that great. And surprisingly, once it was implanted, Homer successfully went on to give a lecture at Springfield University, proving he was much smarter than the average man. Now, while implantations aren't a new idea, but a chip intended to make humans smarter, and to make some tasks easier. That sounds quite similar to what Elon Musk is going for. His Neuralink implant is designed to help humans connect to their devices and control them with just a thought. Amazingly, Neuralink is already open to in-human clinical trials, which means we might be seeing a couple of old Homers refurbished soon. Got. If you're not caught up on Game of Thrones, you might want to skip this, and maybe even hold off on watching The Simpsons for a bit. In the first episode of Season 29, The Simpsons are dropped into a medieval, magical realm. After a thrilling journey, they're facing a near-certain demise, until a dragon suddenly swoops in and burns everything to ashes. Now, here's the interesting part. Shortly after this episode aired, Game of Thrones featured a very similar scene with, you guessed it, a dragon torching a city. Could the Giot writers have taken a page from The Simpsons? Or does Matt Groening know something we don't? Barbenheimer. In one of the most surprising coincidences, The Simpsons seemingly predicted the simultaneous release of two very different movies. Yes, we're talking about the recent back-to-back release of the new Barbie movie and Oppenheimer, which turned out to be one of Hollywood's biggest days ever. And, of course, The Simpsons had a hand in this too. In an older episode, Marge and Homer are looking at some movie posters. One shows what looks like a seaside adventure, while the other clearly features smoke, and even the name Oppenheimer. Sure, there's no Malibu Stacy here, but the fact that two wildly contrasting movies appeared on the same day is strange. Mass of the Higgs boson. Imagine if everything, including you and me, were made of weightless donut holes. That's kind of how things would be without the Higgs boson, a tiny particle that scientists believe is kind of like sprinkles on a donut, giving it a bit of extra weight. Now you're probably wondering why we're talking about science. And honestly, we don't need to go back to school. But the thing is simple. For a long time, scientists didn't really know what the mass of the Higgs boson would be. But weirdly enough, in The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, which released in 1998, Homer Simpson suddenly becomes smart enough and predicts a certain number, 775 giga-electron volts, GeV. Although this isn't the current valued mass of the Higgs boson, which is 125 GeV, the equation and method comes eerily close to the ones used 14 years later. Lowe's test drive. The Simpsons isn't just blindly throwing possibilities. A few events have aligned perfectly. A bit too perfectly, might I add. While holograms aren't a new thing, one Simpsons scene blew my mind away because it resembled a real-life event, almost to the dot. The Simpsons visited a fair where children are playing in a virtual yard work simulator. Now focus on the environment, the setup, the works. And now check out Lowe's Holoroom Test Drive. Looks a little bit familiar, doesn't it? Since it's still under work, there's a lot that's yet to come. But for it to match exactly what The Simpsons showed, this goes beyond coincidence. And especially since Lowe's is testing out a hologram, which did happen during a separate episode. And this all screams not a coincidence.